Hi guys, and welcome to another episode of the Chasing Past Golf Podcast. Where in this episode, I'm joined by seven-time LPGA Tour champion, major winner, six-time Solheim Cupper, and practically a legend of the LPGA Tour, Angela Stanford. Angela, welcome. Thank you very much for coming on. How's life in Texas? And I've just mentioned here that it's like between 0 degrees and -1 in chilly Scotland right now. But how's life in Texas?
It's good. Our weather is a bit of a roller coaster right now. I looked at the forecast today. It got cold. We kind of had a little cold front come through. It's probably lower 50s. And then like on Wednesday, it's supposed to be 80 again. And then Thanksgiving, it's down back into like the lower 50s. So this time of year, it's a bit of a roller coaster with our weather, but still not as bad as it is there, I guess.
Yeah, no, for sure. Nothing will be as bad as the Scottish weather, I promise you that. But no, so you recently, after 24 years as a full-time professional on the LPGA Tour, you recently made the decision to retire from full-time competition at LPGA Tour level. First of all, congratulations on an illustrious career. I mean, 24 years, that's very good going. And what was the decision making overall to like retire full time?
You know, it's been a couple years coming. My mother passed away the beginning of 2022, and I think that really kind of shifted the way I felt about life in general. There were things at home that were more important, and trying to make sure my dad was okay. And then there was just that year was just hard in general. And then how did I feel about still playing golf, going through all that? Well, tried to play 2022 a little bit. Looking back now, I probably shouldn't have done that. And then 2023, I tried some TV some commentating, because I kind of felt like maybe I am finished. But then there was like this goal of getting to 100 consecutive majors that I knew if I played into 2024, I had a chance of achieving that goal. So I really worked hard in the off season. So at the end of 23, beginning of 24, I really worked hard in that off season, trying to get my game in shape. And I had some really good advice one time. Somebody said, never make your decision to retire at the end of the year, because everybody wants to quit at the end of the year. So I went through one more off season, tried to give it everything I had. And, the level of play on our tour right now, the LPGA Tour, is it's unbelievable how good these ladies are. And, I felt like I gave it everything I had, and I was barely making cuts and just not really competitive. So, I felt like that was my answer. 24 years playing as hard as I could and competing, at the highest level. It just kind of made sense that, it's time to go.
Yeah, and you just alluded to there your kind of legendary run of 98 major appearances in a row. I mean, that takes some doing to even get close to that. So congratulations on that feat. That's a super great achievement. I was just briefly touching off air with you about, like, I take it there was a slight disappointment of not getting to 100 appearances.
Yeah, I mean, I was really disappointed. I really thought I could have done it. Really frustrated that it was the U.S. Open that I missed, and that was ultimately the event that killed the streak. I was disappointed. I really believe that I could have gotten to 100, but at the same time, I'm glad I tried. I think I would have always wondered if I wouldn't have gone through that last off season of 23 and the beginning of 24 to try to achieve that goal. I think I would have always wondered if I could have gotten there. So, you don't really achieve all the goals in your life, but yeah, I gave it a shot.
Yeah, I think in this day and age, like especially on the LPGA Tour, where the level is so high, like it'd be pretty nigh on impossible to try and get anywhere near the kind of longevity to get to like 98 appearances. I mean, with especially well, we talked about off air as well about how Lexi Thompson's retired, Ali Ewing's retired, Marina Alex has recently retired as well. I mean, it seems to be quite a lot of the players are retiring between 30 and 40, and yeah, that's going to make it extra hard to get to 98. But I mean, you said that I think it's only Jack Nicklaus that's possibly reached more than that. Is that true?
Yeah. So I think the number is like 142. I think that's it. I know it's in the 140 something, but yeah, Jack Nicklaus is the only guy to ever play over 100 consecutive majors. I think Adam Scott has a chance coming up here this next year. I think he's going to kind of be in the same boat that I was in. He probably needs help from the USGA. So good luck, Adam.
Yeah, no, definitely. Adam Scott. I mean, that's another fantastic like sign of longevity to get to. I think he must be what 93, 94 maybe now.
I think so.
Yeah, he's getting very, very close.
Yeah.
But so we'll kind of take it back to the start for you. So well, you were born and raised in Texas, is that right? And how how was it that you kind of first took up the game of golf, or when did you first take an interest?
So growing up, I played all the sports except what y'all would call football over there. I did not grow up playing the American soccer. I did not. That's the one sport I did not play when I was a little kid, but played almost everything else. My dad played golf before my brother and I were born. I think my dad played like every day. So I think I was 10 and we were actually driving home from a tennis tournament. And my dad was like, well, what do you think about golf? And my dad was very smart. He figured out that one, there were women's scholarships being left on the table at that time for women's golf, for women playing golf. And also, if he took me with him when he went to play golf, my mother couldn't say no. So that was kind of his way of two birds with one stone kind of thing. So he asked me what I thought about golf, and I said, it's another sport to play. I'll give it a whirl, and I just fell in love with it. I fell in love with it. It's the hardest game I ever played, hardest sport ever played. And it also gave me an avenue to college. This was the only sport that I could have gotten a Division I scholarship at the time. And again, this was late 90s. So women's golf has exploded on every level, but the college level, the game has really grown. So I always say, if you pick me up as an 18-year-old, I probably wouldn't have played it at a Division I school today. I wasn't that good in high school, but at the time I was able to go to TCU.
Yeah, and so speaking of like some of the other sports that you played, what was it a like a second favorite to golf as such? Like so out with golf, what would be your favorite like that you used to play?
I mean, I played slow pitch softball. That was probably my favorite, and then basketball, my next favorite. I love volleyball. I actually played a little flag football, just intramurals, I guess, or it was never really a sport for girls, but really anything I could play. Golf, I didn't really fall in love with golf until I got out on tour, to be perfectly honest. Again, golf was always kind of a tool to get me to where I needed to go. All the other sports, I was good, but I wasn't going to play at a college level in anything except golf.
And so you went to Texas Christian University. Obviously, you mentioned there about like getting the scholarship to TCU. What was your time like at TCU?
I loved it. I did not go far from home. The little town that I'm from is just north of Fort Worth. TCU's in Fort Worth. But I loved it. I didn't want to go far away from home. I also wasn't highly recruited. I really wasn't recruited out of the state of Texas. And that was okay. I love TCU. I love the coach. Coach Angie Larkin is still there, but she was great. She helped me grow into the professional golfer that I finally became. And I just loved it. I loved the size of the school. I I would make the same decision today.
Yeah, and so at TCU, obviously you got all the other sports as well. Are you a fan of like watching like all the other sports as well, like that involves Texas?
Oh yeah, I say so. The Texas Rangers, they're my favorite team. They're a professional baseball team. I tell people I'm a Dallas Cowboys fan by birth because I mean, if you're born here, you're a Cowboy fan. And then obviously anything TCU related. I love going to basketball games, football games. I love the Mavericks, love the Stars. Very hometown team oriented, but yeah, I especially at TCU. One of our back then, one of our favorite things was to go to men's basketball games. Those were kind of the thing to go to when I was there. So I love those memories. I love going to football games. Anything I could go to, sport related, I would.
And during your amateur career, you also played in the 2000 Curtis Cup for Team USA. Obviously, one of the highest team tournaments in the amateur game. USA versus Great Britain and Ireland. What was that experience like?
That was a dream. It felt like a dream because at the time, again, I consider myself a late bloomer. I really didn't kind of come into my own until midway through my professional career. But that Curtis Cup was awesome. I'd never played in England before, never made that trip before. And it was just an amazing experience. And now looking back, I can't imagine not having that experience. Um, like you said, I played 6 Solheim Cups, but there's something about that amateur version of that team experience that was just I wouldn't trade that for anything.
And see when you got on that long flight from Texas to England, was there a little bit of a culture shock when you first arrived there?
I will say I grew up eating a bunch of Tex-Mex, kind of spicy, food, and then when I got there, it was a little bit of a culture shock. I had a hard time with let's see, well, I mean, your breakfast over there. There are some things that I still am not sure I've ever tried it. So yeah, the food's a little different, but like I said, I wouldn't have traded that experience for anything in the world. It was an amazing week and just so fun to be a part of.
Yep. And so you also turned pro not long after TSU and TCU, sorry.
Okay.
Oh God, I managed to get it all wrong already. It's only 13 minutes in. No, I do apologise.
Okay.
Yeah, you turned pro not long after that, and you made your LPGA Tour debut, I believe, in 2001. Is that right?
Yes. Yes.
What was the first kind of couple of years like on tour? I take it, obviously you have to get accustomed to the traveling side of things, like the hire cars, etc., from tournaments, and all the media commitments as well. So, when you first kind of take that in, what's that feeling like?
Honestly, I was trying to keep my head above water. I think there's so much that you have to learn those first few years on tour. I always say you don't really your rookie year is probably your first 3 years. You feel like a rookie because the first year you're playing all new golf courses. The second year they're still new, but there's just still so much that you have to learn how to manage your time. And I think the biggest thing is, you can play college golf and you can be really good in college golf, but you're only playing probably 4 or 5 tournaments in the fall, 4 or 5 tournaments in the spring, maybe 6, 7 if you go into nationals and stuff like that. But on the LPGA Tour, it's week in and week out. You're playing the best in the world. And I think that is the hardest part to get adjusted and to realize that, one, you got to wake up every day and play the best. And then once Sunday's over, guess what? You got to get to a new city, learn a new golf course, and do it again that week. So I think that's the biggest adjustment, I think, is that you go from doing it, you're playing 4 or 5 times in the fall or spring to, I think I played, I'd have to go back and look, but Over about 20 years, I averaged about 25 events a year. So, you're playing 19 to 24 events, where when you were in college, you probably only played 11 or 12. So, it is quite the adjustment. And I always tell these rookies, look, you got to do whatever you can to make a cut, make some money, keep learning, keep showing. You need those weekends, because you're learning. The more you play, the more tournament golf you play, the more you're learning. So it was really just about keeping your head above water.
Yeah. So from obviously the traveling side of things, like how would your kind of preparation, like how would that go about? Like for, like, say 1 week it was the US and then the next week it was like, say for example, the Asian swing. Like how would your preparation kind of, like, would things change?
Well, I think the thing that makes my career pretty unique is that we didn't really have an Asian swing until like 2007, 8, 9. So, the first few years of my career, we didn't go to Asia. I think there was a tournament in Japan, but there wasn't the Asia swing that you think of now, in the spring and in the fall. Like that really didn't happen till 07, 08. So for me, that was difficult. I'm a homebody at heart. I did not sign up for the LPGA Tour thinking I was going to travel the world, to be perfectly honest. Um, and I think it took me a little while to get used to that. Getting on an airplane and flying halfway around the world wasn't something that I thought was going to happen when I signed up to play the LPGA Tour. So, however, I'm extremely grateful for it. I mean, I've seen so much that I never thought I would, and I've loved it. But that's the big difference in these kids today that come out on tour. They have their passport in hand and they're ready to go. So that was hard for me to get used to.
So when it comes to, like, the traveling side of things, would you call yourself a good traveler, or would you call yourself a like what's your thoughts on, like, obviously, like, being on a flight for hours and hours and hours? Like,
Um,
how would you kind of occupy yourself?
I'm not a good traveler. I would say I'm not a good traveler. I'd call myself a prickly traveler. um, if I don't get the right seat, if I don't get, I don't know. Again, it was hard for me, and I had to learn how to do it. And I tell people, you have to learn how to do this, whether it's, you're dealing with the time change. How do you get your body adjusted? What do you do on the airplane? Do you sleep? Drink lots of water. So I think a lot of it's trial and error, but I really think I learned how to do it well by the end of my career. I knew what I liked. Um, that's the other thing I tell these younger kids: figure out what you like, because everybody's different. So it doesn't matter how, Nelly travels, because we may not like the same things. So do you like to leave early in the week? Do you like to leave late? So I try to tell these younger, there's no right or wrong way to do this. You got to figure out how you want to do it. So by the end, I figured out how I really enjoyed doing it.
And obviously, round about the first time when you're traveling, obviously the jet lag and that, like, you have to adjust to, like, the jet lag and stuff. I take it that was very hard for yourself.
Jet lag is weird. I mean, it is wild. And when I learned, again, it took me a while to get a late bloomer across the board, no matter what. It takes me a little longer to learn these things, but going east, anytime you fly east, in my opinion, that's always harder. So when we would go to Europe and play now AIG or Evian, the Scottish, that was always really hard for me, because it's, you don't want to get up the next morning. You have a hard time going to sleep at night. So I think anytime you go east, anytime I went to Asia, I was okay for some reason. Anytime I've gone to Hawaii, I've been okay. So it's just that east flight that gets me.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, traveling from US to Europe is a pretty long slog in itself. So yeah, I don't blame you.
Yeah.
So So we're going to talk about the 2003 US Women's Open. So you got beat in a playoff, which was eventually won by Hilary Lunke. But sorry, I believe it was it Pumpkin Ridge? Is that right?
That's right. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Pumpkin Ridge. Yeah. So like, how would you assess that week? Obviously, you've only been on a tour like a good just over 2 years, 3 years, to then obviously be in contention in a US Women's Open. I take it that was an experience in itself for you.
Yeah, and the week before I won my first event at ShopRite. So coming off that win the week before and then fly from ShopRite back through DFW out to Portland. Again, I think I was kind of walking on the clouds because I just won my first tournament, felt really good. Actually, it was Wednesday afternoon. I'm not much of a napper. I don't like to take naps during the day. I slept for like 4 hours Wednesday afternoon because I think I got to Portland on Monday. I played a practice round Tuesday. I got up and played a little more Wednesday and then just crashed. Like I just emotionally, physically, and I think just, getting up and then playing Thursday, when people talk about a zone, people talk about golf and how things are just kind of all of a sudden you're on autopilot. I really think that those 2 weeks were a lot of that, that Open especially, because once I got there, I don't remember much about early in the week. And then just, it seemed like everything kind of went my way that week, up till the very end. But yeah, that was an experience that, and back then I thought, oh, well, surely I'm going to win a major. I mean, it's only my third year and I'm in a playoff for a major. Surely I'm going to win a major someday. So, and then to think that I didn't win till I was 40 was pretty wild.
Yeah, obviously we'll go into that Evian a little bit later on, but but obviously when you've only been starting about 2 or 3 years, that's an achievement in itself. Like obviously a major championship, the contention in a major championship. I imagine the nerves must have been like all over the place.
Yeah, honestly, my biggest worry that week, it was great. My family was there. It was over 4th of July. It was a great week. So we go into the playoff on Monday and, I had signed up to play in a pro-am that Monday on the other golf course. And I was so worried because if I'm committed to you, I don't want to pull out of the pro-am. And I remember calling the person who was in charge. I'm like, I'm so sorry. I'm not going to be able to play the Monday Pro-Am because I got to go play this playoff for the US Open. And the person just basically laughed at me and was like, I think it's okay. I think we can find somebody else. So that Monday morning, we kind of come up over the hill as we're kind of going to the golf course. And I just remember seeing this field full of cars. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like I just assumed the three of us, it was myself, Kelly Robbins, and Hilary Lunke. I don't know what I was thinking. Like I just kind of thought the three of us were going to be out there playing. And I never even thought about crowds. Like I never thought that people would show up. And I think that's why it took me a little while to kind of get going, because all of a sudden I was like, oh wow, this is bigger. It's the US Open, but it was just bigger. For whatever reason, I couldn't wrap my head around. I was playing for the US Open that day. So ignorance was probably bliss a lot of my career, but yeah, that was an interesting tournament to be a part of.
So fast forward to 2008, where you won twice on the LPGA Tour. So at the Bell Micro LPGA Classic and the Lorena Ochoa Invitational, where I believe a certain Annika Sorenstam was second as well. So that's pretty good going in itself. Obviously, Annika being a legend that she is, 70 it's over 70 wins anyway. I can't remember the exact number, but yeah. So obviously, yeah, a lot. So obviously, managing specifically the Lorena Ochoa Invitational to end up being Annika. I mean, that's an achievement in itself. But I'll take it back to the Bell Micro. So obviously, your second tour win. how were you feeling in that moment?
Well, and to get to that point, you know, '03 was amazing. I win. I'm runner-up at the U.S. Open. I play in my first Solheim Cup. You know, I think as a young player, I didn't fully understand what was happening. And 2004, 2005 were my worst years on tour. I can't fully explain everything that happened, but just all of a sudden, and I don't know, and I think some of it is you think, oh, I've made it. I've won. I've played on a Solheim Cup. This is going to be easy. Like I'm on cruise control. That's not how golf works. And I found out real quick. '04 and '05 were really tough. End of '05, I decide as I'm sitting on my couch at that Solheim Cup, I didn't make that team. I told myself this is never going to happen again. I refuse to be sitting on my couch for a Solheim Cup again. So I change instructors. I find a new trainer, and basically just kind of look in the mirror and say, hey, are you doing everything you can to be great? And if you're not, then you need to find another job. So I think missing that Solheim Cup in '05 really helped me kind of adjust, you know, one, the type of player I wanted to be. And I think that's when I really turned into a professional, and started working with a new coach. In 2006, I had a couple of near misses. '07 was okay. And then at the end of '08, obviously, that's when things really started to click. So I really think getting to '08, the big story there was how bad 4 and 5, and then the changes I made in 6. And so, yeah, winning again in '08 was, you know, I think that second one is like a lot of times when you win one, you kind of wonder, can I do it again? I think the second one is more of a relief that you're like, okay, I can do it again. And then Lorena's event, I have said Lorena Ochoa is my all-time favorite player. All-time favorite player that I ever played against. Just nothing but class. An amazing human being, one of the best number ones we ever had on this tour. And to get to win her first event there down in Guadalajara was pretty cool. And then to beat Annika too, like you were saying. I watched her lip out on the 72nd hole to beat her. So that was a pretty cool week in Mexico.
Yeah, I mean that's big praise. Obviously, you played with some of the greats. I mean, you played with Annika, you played with the likes of Carrie Webb, etc. as well. And to kind of point out Ochoa as like the best that you've ever played with, near enough. It's that's some good praise.
Yeah, she was awesome. I mean, she and I will say Webby was probably a close second. I think I was more scared of Webby than anything else. She was the most intimidating player I ever played against. So those two, you know, and then just one of my favorite personalities, and I'm so grateful women's golf had Laura Davies. I say, and again, I usually when you're playing golf and you're playing a tournament, this is, I mean, for me, I don't watch other players. I'm not paying attention. But those 3 players, I would actually just stop and watch. If I ever got paired with LD, Lorena, or Webby, I watched them because they were my favorites. And anytime I got paired with them, I kind of became a fan inside the ropes.
And then you continue that kind of good form into 2009. So that was another good year for you. You had the win at the SBS Open at Turtle Bay. You lost in a playoff to J.A. Shin at the Northwest Arkansas Championship. And then obviously 2009, you made the Solheim Cup team again. Obviously, we'll talk about the win there. That must have been the highlight of the lot. But obviously, to play again for the 3rd time at a Solheim Cup, I take it that was another proud moment for you.
Yeah, you know, at that point, so I'd played. We talked about the Curtis Cup. I played overseas. 2003 and 2007, we played both of those Solheim Cups in Sweden. So 2009 was the first time I'd played a team event in the United States. So that was a completely different experience, and loved that. And we won that one. We won '07 and '09. So yeah, I would say that that stretch of time between like 2006 and 2009 was pretty good.
Yeah, obviously, from an outsider looking in, like for a Solheim Cup, like obviously home advantage is a major thing in these team tournaments, and for you playing for the first time on home soil as such in one of the most prestigious team tournament in women's golf. What's the sense of feeling like, especially on that first tee box? Because obviously it's like, especially when you're playing back in the US, it's a pretty rowdy crowd.
Yeah, I would say to experience the first tee at a Solheim Cup is the best thing you can do in golf. Um, I think it took me a little while to get used to it when we played in '09 at home on home soil, because like we were out there on Tuesday and people are like clapping for us going down like the third fairway. And I'm like, I haven't experienced this yet because I've been overseas playing and people aren't clapping for us on like the third hole on a Tuesday. So that took I had to get used to that, because that was hard for me at first because I'm like, oh wow, like, there's just so much more support at home, and it's awesome, but it's really like you have to stay focused on what you're doing, and I think it's easier to focus when you're playing overseas in this tournament because there's less commitments on your end, and people aren't cheering for you, so so it's
Yeah.
easier to kind of stay focused on the task at hand and just try to get that win.
How did you personally find the atmospheres like on the away legs of the Solheim Cup? Did you just kind of like take it in and cherish it, or did you like, or were you not a massive fan of like obviously the hostility and stuff?
I I love it. I absolutely love it. And that's even growing up. When I played softball, I loved playing at somebody else's field. Basketball, I love going to somebody else's gym. Like I love it. I love, the atmosphere of like it's us against everybody else. I love a team, I love the team concept. I love that you're all in it together, and that you're battling together against everybody. So I love it. I love it when it's in the realm of good sportsmanship. Um, I'm okay with fans, cheering as loud as they can for their home team, and I'm okay if they don't clap for us, as long as it doesn't get like, out of hand and it stays very cordial. I'm okay with that. You're supposed to cheer for your home team, and it's supposed to be hard. So I love it.
Yeah, no, 100%. I mean, it's like that for the Ryder Cup as well. Maybe a little bit more hostile, but yeah, like certainly, that's the way it should be.
Agree.
And so we'll fast forward to 2012, where you managed to get your fifth title on the LPGA Tour. And that was, well, that was the HSBC Women's Champions event in China where you won in a playoff. Obviously, to win in Asia, to win in China, what was that like? Obviously, because like, well, we know that obviously in Asia it's a little bit, well, it's majorly different. Obviously you got to deal with like some of the language barrier and stuff. So obviously when you win in Asia, what's that kind of feel like? I take it's like, I take it that was a massive relief maybe to win overseas in like China.
Yeah. Well, so it was Singapore, and I I love Singapore. Um,
Singapore, sorry, my
so
bad.
it was always like we would go to Thailand and Singapore was one of my favorite places we went to. Um, Everybody was always so nice everywhere we've gone. The fans are great. But I don't know. I felt like I just enjoyed Singapore, and I always felt comfortable there, and food was good. I could always find something good to eat. The golf course was fun to play. So I don't know what it was. By the time we got to Singapore, I enjoyed being there. And again, just that concept of, I felt like I was just kind of in my own little bubble. Um, People are asleep at home when you're playing your round, and so it's I don't know if it just helps me focus. I don't know, but I love playing in Singapore. Wish I could have gone back one more time, but that was a big win for me. And if you look at my career, I had these moments of time in between wins, and middle of '09 is when I found out my mom was diagnosed with breast cancer. So, and I think that's what you have to remember about whether it's PGA, LPGA, that there's so much going on. And, these golfers are still people, and they still have a life outside of golf. And there's so many factors that really change the way either you're playing or you're feeling, or, life is a huge component to your golf game, and you can't shut things off. And so, I think when you see these windows in my career where I don't win, a lot of it was, and Beth Daniel said this to me after my mom was diagnosed. She's like, you just have to get used to a new normal, and the faster you can get used to a new normal, the better it's going to be. So there was that period of time of adjustment in my life. So, that was another big win for me, because I had made that adjustment. Things were changing at home, and I was still able to kind of pull my game back together and win again.
Yeah. And when it comes to like the playoff and stuff, what's the when obviously you get to a playoff, what's the kind of mindset that you have to take into one of these playoffs? Because like obviously as an outsider looking in, they do look brutal to play, and obviously the pressure, the nerves that can that can happen during the playoffs and stuff. How did you kind of adjust that? Obviously, you played 72 holes. You've got to play extra holes. Like, how do you get into that kind of mindset?
Well, for me, it was always try to be the last man standing. I tried to not make a mistake. The one I played in one playoff one time in Canada that I wish I could have back, because it was the one time that I tried to win it. I tried to hit a shot that I shouldn't have tried to hit, made a mistake, I lose the playoff. But that specific playoff in Singapore, I liked the 18th hole. I was hitting it really well that week. It was a really difficult 18th hole, so I knew that if I could continue to hit great shots, I'd be the last one standing. And that's what I did. I just tried to outlast everybody. And that's really kind of my mindset in playoffs is I'm going to hit the best shots I can hit to apply pressure to the other person or players in the playoff, and just see if I can be the last one.
Yeah. We're going to fast forward to the majors now, where obviously the biggest title of your career happened in 2018. But even just looking at your major record in general, is quite impressive. So in I believe it was 103 that you played in total. Is that right? Yeah.
I think it was like 102.
102, 103. Yeah, something like that. Yeah, close. But in that time, so like my figures might be a little bit wrong, but like please correct me if I am wrong. But you have about 35 top 25 finishes, 14 top 10s, 8 top 5s, and obviously the one win in just over 102 majors. I mean, what is it about the majors that kind of made you like, it made you like it could be something about like focusing more on obviously winning a major title is what kind of your career is decided upon at the end of the day. Yeah, what made you like focus more on the majors? Was it obviously a sense of pride, or was it what was it?
Well, they're usually the best fields. You have the best players in those fields. So I always wanted to play in those tournaments. I wanted to play at the highest level. I wanted to play against the best. Week in and week out, what can I do to get into those tournaments? I love playing the big tournaments. I love just competing at the highest level against the best players on some of the toughest golf courses. So a lot of that is what that was. I never wanted to miss one. I always wanted to play in a major because they were the best. So, I think the thing that I had going for me for a long time was my ball striking. My iron play was always really good. And it wasn't until I figured out how to make my short game better that I finally won a major. I think if my putting, I was always probably a little above average putter. I wasn't a great putter, but my ball striking carried me for the majority of my career. End of 2017, I changed instructors again. I've only had really 3. I worked with 5 different people over the 24 years, but 3 of them for an extended period of time. That change in 2017 was to a guy by the name of Todd Kolb in South Dakota. And really, he really worked on my short game, really helped me mechanically, but then also taught me how to practice. I never really enjoyed practicing my short game. It always seemed kind of boring, but he really helped me in that. And it wasn't until my short game really got better that I finally won a major. I wish I would have figured that out a lot earlier.
So on your 76th major start at the age of 40 years old, the weekend the week at Evian-les-Bains in France for the Evian Championship, you win your first major title. I take it, obviously, I believe Amy Olsen was it one or two ahead going down the last 4 or 5 holes, is that right? From memory.
Yes.
Yeah, and so obviously you post the score at 12 under par for the rest to beat, and obviously when you see that Amy kind of makes a mistake on the 72nd hole, obviously on one hand, you feel a little bit sorry for her, but at the same time, it's more of a relief for you that after all of these years of trying, 18 years as a professional on the tour, on your 76th major start, that you've finally done it. That's the monkey off the back.
Yeah, and I've always said you never want a player to do that coming down the stretch. You don't want to see Amy do what she did on the 72nd hole to lose a golf tournament. Nobody wants to see that. I thought about it a long time after, and it wasn't until the guy that I worked with for the majority of my career, Mike Wright at Shady Oaks, he basically said, look, you had to put yourself in a position that if something went wrong for her, you were going to win the tournament. So you did that. You did what you were supposed to do. He's like, you can't control what other people are doing. So that made me feel better because Amy is one of my friends. I really like Amy a lot. And it's even worse to watch a friend do that. So it took me a minute to be okay with it. I mean, obviously, and I think that's why I reacted the way I did for a couple reasons when I won. Is one was the relief, but 2, I couldn't believe that Amy had just done that, and you don't wish that on anybody. So there's so many different emotions going on that Sunday, but yeah, happy it finally happened, and honestly, looking back at my career, I wouldn't have wanted it to go any differently. I mean, the fact that I could win my first major at 40, not many people get to win majors, and they certainly don't win them in their 40s. So I'm happy to be one of those people.
Yeah, and so after what happened at 18, and obviously you've won your first major title. What was the reaction like from obviously all your peers, your fellow professionals? I take it everyone was absolutely over the moon for you.
Everybody was so nice. I remember, I honestly, I can't remember how many text messages and emails and I tried to reply to everyone.
5,000.
It was a lot. I probably didn't get into the thousands, but I had a lot. And, you know, and a lot of that is, I said, winning that major was for all those people that followed me all that time. You know, they had to watch my near misses for, you know, 18 years. And so it was just as much for people at home and my friends and family as it was for me. They were kind of in it with me all along too. So everybody was so nice. We did have a party after that one at Shady Oaks here in Fort Worth. And because it was a celebration for everybody. I felt like that win was for everybody that's been with me on this ride this whole time.
And for yourself, obviously, like in them 18 years, you'd had a very good career, like specifically over that period of time, like all of the near misses and majors, etc. Like you kind of after a while get dubbed like the best player never to win a major. I take it with statements like that kind of like fuels you more to like finally get over the line.
Yeah, and I think I was the best player to not win a major for a long time. I think I would say for at least 5 or 6 years there, I think people expected me to win a major by, you know, before I did. So I carried that title around for a long time, and you know, and I think I just got into a place personally that I was okay. I was okay if I had to go my entire career and not win a major, and I think I just, you know, taking some of that pressure off myself, I think made a big difference that week, and just appreciating the longevity of my career, and you know, and all the good that had come from my career. So I think maybe letting go of some of that pressure and weight on my shoulders probably helped that week, but that week was a true blessing. I've said, you know, I love to play. I love to play the game. I love to compete. I played a lot in my career, and that in the end was the blessing, because if you win at 40, if you win a major at 40, you get 5 years on tour. So, you know, that to me, that was the gift. That was waiting all that time, winning your first major. Now here, you get to play into your mid 40s, and you get to play the game that you've loved your entire life. So that ultimately was, you know, looking back, that's why I'm so grateful it happened the way it did.
Yeah, and into the slightly weird year of 2020. Yeah, that was a very, very weird year. But yeah, obviously in the prime time of like COVID and stuff, that must have been difficult. But in 2020 at the Volunteers of America Classic, which you were surrounded by family at the time, I believe. You won your 7th and final LPGA Tour title. I think I seen on your Instagram post, like when you were announcing your retirement, that this was probably the most special of the lot. Is that right?
Yeah. Yeah, because for what was happening off the course, you know, my mom, that was December of 2020. Little, you know, we didn't know at the time, but you know, she would pass away in March of 2022. So, you know, my parents had never seen me win a professional tournament in person. So to win at home, your last win right in your backyard in Texas with your parents there, I couldn't have asked for anything else. And that week, I remember it was the first week of December. I just had my birthday, so I just turned 43, I believe, and it was so cold that week, and that course was playing so hard. And every day I would drive home and I would think, man, they're letting me hang around. Nobody's running away with this tournament. I'm kind of hanging around. And then I played really well Sunday that week, and really good on the back nine. So again, just kind of one of those cool, magical weeks. And then again, to have my parents there and to see me win as a professional, that's what made it the sweetest.
And so, in between, obviously, this kind of the last few years of professional life on the LPGA Tour, You actually won back-to-back senior women's championships as well in 2023 and 2024. Obviously it's a pretty new concept, but like I take it you want to be the one that kind of elevates like the senior tour as such.
Yeah, I think if you look at the history of the LPGA Tour, there's so many women that get to an age where we don't have a Champions Tour. There's just not a lot of opportunities once you get to a certain age as a female to play competitively. And I think about all the women that came before me, and you still have that drive to play. Like, just because all of a sudden you're a little bit older, that drive doesn't go away. You can't play on the LPGA forever. That's not how it works. And but we do have something called the Legends of the LPGA, and we have a few tournaments. And the senior tournament, I think they renamed it the Legends Championship. And then that's for anybody 45 and over. The U.S. Senior Open is 50 and over. So there's this window that, you're looking for chances to stay competitive, and, you don't lose that love of the game. You don't lose that competitiveness. And I would love to help grow that. I would love to play as much as I can and try to get some of my older friends to come back and play and just grow it. I say, look, you don't just grow the game when you're 15 or 25 or 35. You can grow the game your entire life. And people pick up the game in different times of their life. There are a lot of people that start playing the game after 50 or when they retire. So I think the legends of the LPGA, we can grow and we can help grow the game of golf and help the LPGA Tour. And so, yeah, I would love to be a part of making that a little bit better.
I just want to talk about your final week on the LPGA Tour. So it was at the Lotte Championship in Hawaii at Ho'akale, I think is how it's pronounced. And that's even impressive by my standards.
Yeah, that was pretty good.
So your final week on tour at the Lotte Championship, a lot was on the line. I think you had to get into the top 100 and was it 135? Is that right? 125? Was that?
To get to play in Pelican the next week.
Yeah.
I think I had to probably finish top 20 is ultimately how it shook out, because I finished T26 and I didn't get in. So, but yeah, that week in Hawaii was awesome. It was a perfect ending, perfect week. I had some friends there. We had a little get together one night, and just the whole week. I made the cut. I get to, I chipped in for eagle to make the cut, and then shot 4 under the next 2 days. So, I mean, I don't know what more you could ask for, being 46 years old, 24 years on tour, and to make your final cut and to play well, shoot under par. Everybody wants to win, but I mean, T26 in your final event's not bad.
Yeah, and I take it there was a lot of emotional scenes after the 72nd hole at Hawaii. Like, obviously, it's been a very illustrious career for yourself, and to make that change, it must have been emotional.
Yeah, I mean, it's. I think I've put in a lot of work mentally and emotionally to get to this point and to be okay with this. I think I've watched a lot of my friends retire, and everybody has a hard time. I'm going to have a hard time, but I tried to do everything I can to prepare myself emotionally and mentally to take the next step and to close this chapter and move on. And it doesn't mean that I got it and that it's going to be easy from here on out. It's not. But I feel like I'm equipped with certain things that I've done and to prepare myself for this. So I will have those moments where I miss it, but at the same time, I'm just in a really good place in my life, and it was time to move on.
So I'm just going to kind of finish with a few questions. So, like, obviously you've had an established career. I mean, you played in plenty of Solheim Cups. Obviously, you had the record major run. You major championship winner. You won plenty of times on the LPGA Tour. But if you had to nail one of your proudest achievements in golf, what would it be?
I would say playing 24 consecutive years at the highest level. For me, that's it. I mean, the wins are awesome, but to every year you start all over. Every year's a new year. And to put together 24 years that I never lost my card, that means the most to me, because it means that every year I got up and I played with the best in the world.
So what would you want your kind of lasting legacy to be on the LPGA Tour, whether that be for a new generation of players or for even current players just now? Like, what would you want your lasting legacy to be on the LPGA?
I don't know. I think that that I love my tour, that I would have done anything for my tour. I wanted to make it better. I wanted to be one of the good ones, one of the ones that really would do anything to make their tour better. Whether that means I played a small role or a big role, even the small things count. And, if I was just a small part of making the tour better or helping it grow, then, I would hope that people would say that about me, and that this next generation would want to do the same.
Yeah, what's your current thoughts on the current state of the LPGA Tour? Obviously, it seems to be thriving with more added prize funds at the minute. I mean, that's been extended into 2025, like by all the sponsors putting up the prize funds and stuff. And for me, thoroughly deserved, because I feel like even though it's getting much more publicity, I still feel like the women's game is lacking behind a little bit in terms of like especially when it comes to like viewership and stuff. Like, what's your thoughts on obviously the prize fund raises and stuff?
Yeah, well, I love it. I love that they're playing for more money now. They're playing better venues. Everything's getting better. But I still come from a generation that remembers that it hasn't always been this easy, and that you have to continue to work and you have to continue to make your tour better. I think our biggest deal is trying to get more eyes on us. To me, it feels a lot like women's basketball. I think when Caitlin Clark came on the scene and people start watching women's basketball, they're like, oh, wow, like they're all good. Like Caitlin's a star, but the women's game is played at a very high level. And I think when people tune in and watch us, they see Nelly, they see, Lily Vu, they see Rose, they see, Lydia, they see all these stars. But then when they watch the product, they're like, oh, wow, they're really good across the board. Like they play the game right. So I think we just need to get more eyeballs on us. I think that's, we still have a long way to go there. So we are making strides. It is getting better and better, but we still have a little ways to go, and that's okay.
And my last question to yourself is, what is next in the pipeline for Angela Stanford? I mean, you could be as blunt of an answer as you want, or you could be like as informative of an answer as you want. But yeah, what is kind of next on the agenda for yourself?
Well, I hope I get to do some commentating. Obviously, I guess listening to me talk about how much I love the LPGA Tour, I would love to talk about it. I'd love to be out there still and again, help in any way grow the LPGA Tour. So that, and then the legends of the LPGA play in some of those events, try to grow some of those purses, grow some awareness for the legends of the LPGA. And, I think those are the two things I would like to do. And hopefully they work out. I'm still kind of waiting to hear back from TV, and then the legends of the LPGA Tour, their still schedule is being finalized. So I think I'll know a lot more after the first of the year. But I think I was telling you before we jumped on, this still feels like I'm just at the end of another year. It doesn't. I think the whole retirement aspect of it hasn't really set in, and I think it's funny. I always kind of feel it the beginning of February. It's like that itch to kind of get on an airplane and go, and that itch to go compete. And so I think that's, after the first year, that's going to be an interesting time for me, because I'm not going to get on an airplane and go play again. So that'll be the big hurdle then. But yeah, I would love to commentate and help grow the legends of the LPGA.
So you're gonna put the sticks away for a little bit.
You know, I actually have played a little bit the last couple of weeks, and I think now I've enjoyed it. I don't have to go out there and be out there all day. I have a wonderful place at Shady Oaks Country Club in Fort Worth I get to play. So get to play with the guys in the games that I've always played in, but I'm always working. Anytime I play in those games, I'm working on my game, trying to fix something. And now I can just go out and play with all the guys. So I think I'm going to enjoy playing golf in retirement.
Yeah, that sounds good. It sounds awesome. Yeah, right. That's right, Angela. Thank you so much for coming on the show. I mean, it's, for me, to be honest, it's been a kind of privilege and an honor to speak to yourself. It's obviously you've had an illustrious career, and yeah, congratulations on the retirement. And yeah, hopefully we'll see you in that commentary role at some point.
I hope so. Well, thank you for having me on. I really appreciate it.
No worries. Guys, if you enjoyed the episode, please please download on all your service providers, and be sure to rate, review, subscribe on Apple Podcasts, and yeah, listen to this amazing conversation with a true pioneer of the LPGA Tour. So, Angela, thank you very much. All the best to you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. See you later.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate it.
Bye.